White men aren't inherently better than black men. Your problems aren't gonna magically disappear when you start dating white men. As somebody who grew up in predominantly white spaces for a majority of my life, your problems aren't gonna magically disappear when you start dating white men. I always preach to date openly, so that's always gonna be my message. You can watch all my old videos. But I have had horror stories with pasta and lobster men. They are both arguably evil, but in different ways. As somebody who's been with white men, who's been with black men, this is something that's so important. And I think a lot of people are going into this with the misconception that it's just gonna magically be better with white men. But as somebody who primarily grew up around white people, that is just not the case. They're just as sleazy.
I have long asserted that anybody who believes that dating white men is going to automatically change your life, improve your life, and you're not going to have any more problems is a person that doesn't know white people. Like, if you honestly believe that white men are the ticket out of your miserable life, then you do not know white people at all. You don't know white women. You never talk to white men. Like, you don't know that, because if you knew them on a personal level, then you would recognize they have challenges and issues just like every other community. And that's what she's alluding to. Now, it sounds like she grew up in a multicultural environment or a predominantly white environment. So because she grew up around white people, then she knew that they also came with their own set of issues. You're also going to find, men in the white community who are sleazy and trying to just take advantage of you. Some of them who fetishize you. Like, you're going to find issues there too. And that's why I'm saying, like, a lot of these ideas that we be seeing online, they're there to pander to people who are believing a fantasy or who are just strictly ignorant, who have never left their block that's full of like all black people. All they've been around is black folks, working class black folks, lower income black folks. They're struggling, they're having a hard time paying bills, they're dealing with drama there, and they just think by getting with a magical mythical white man that life is going to be better. And it's like, no, you just need to get out of your little small environment and community and then get around other people. But once you get around other people outside of your block, you're going to recognize that other people, they still got their own issues, right? It doesn't change just because of color of skin. Like, and I do wish that a lot of these conversations were more about vetting for character and vetting for a good person versus just like, oh, he needs to be white, or he needs not to be black, or he needs not to be a bestie. There's a lot of gaslighting here. There's a lot of gaslighting when it comes to that. So, but I also saw this other video where it says dating white men isn't any better. So this is another black woman who was into the swirl and can sit here and tell you definitively that it ain't much better. Let's hear what she has to say.
Dennis Zimmer tweeted about finding out that her best friend since she was 14 was having an affair with her husband. And we were all shook. Because we knew we knew that they were going through a divorce. She's been very open about that. But we didn't know how deep it was. Like, I remember reading an article about her saying that she was financially abused by her husband when she moved to Germany, and I was like, I'm not shook. I have dated a German, and I know how Germans operate when it comes to money. Okay, so that part was not shocking to me. The part about like financial abuse, I was just like, yeah, you dated a German guy who's probably never lived much outside of Germany, so they probably are very German. But what was funny about it is like reading tweets about people referencing white men playing black women, because they were like, yo, those white dudes are playing as sisters, and they made references to Linda Mdala, whose husband had cheated on her, Sonia Booth, whose husband had cheated on her, Zagi Isi, but we don't really know. I don't really know what happened in that marriage, why it ended up ending. But I'm like, why does it matter what race these people are? Because the problem starts when we start to romanticize and idealize mixed relationships, and we think,
What she's saying, why does it matter? It matters because the media is oftentimes pushing these things. I don't think, honestly, some of these popular swirler channels and even movies, sitcoms, ideas, like, honestly, I don't think all of this is organic. I do think some of this is being pushed. I do think even down to casting calls and different things, different characters that they choose to show in these sitcoms and some of these different Netflix series movies. I do think, honestly, there's a machine behind it pushing interracial relationships when it comes to race. That's why it matters. It matters because there's a whole idea, there's a whole sector behind interracial relationships that's become very propagandized. Not to say that two people of different ethnicities can't honestly fall in love and have a happy life and build, like that can obviously happen. But unfortunately, there's so much propaganda associated with it, and you have a lot of people getting caught up as a result. This is why I have my Divested Disasters, Swirling Gone Wrong, Swirler Saga playlist, because I think it's important to also look at the other side. People are real quick to want to throw black men under the bus. I see there's specifically black women who are tired of black men, they're tired of pookie behavior, and they kind of want to, send the F you to black men, so they'll threaten black men by being like, oh, I'm going to date that side of my race, or I'm going to swirl or whatever, and they just choose any old white dude and then end up on the 10 o'clock news being unalived or dismembered or missing. And I hate to be so, outlandish, but that's literally what's happening. There's countless stories that I have covered off of young black women who have been unalived on first dates. This stuff is real, and I do think sometimes because there's a lot of propaganda around interracial relationships, it can be easier, particularly for young black women who don't have a lot of multicultural experiences. It can be easier for them to create these fantasies and sometimes even not have the same standards for white men or other races of men. And so they put themselves in these situations where they're very vulnerable and can be taken advantage of. I think that happens more than what we are willing to accept.
This is where all the heaven is. Let me tell you, as a person whose long-term relationships have been with both white men and black men, men will men. A man will cheat on you regardless of whether they're black or white. A man will lie on you regardless of whether they're black or white. A man will promise you the world and then deliver nothing regardless of whether they're black or white. I have dated black men that have been amazing, treated me so great, but I tend to gallivant a lot, and so my relationships tend to not work out with black men because they want to capture me, and I'm like, no, I'm for the world and whatnot. I've also dated white men.
She said what? I don't understand. She said she liked to gallivant a lot. So notice she didn't say that black men are trying to abuse her or oppress her or keep her up in chains, or they're not willing to do the masculine things. It's because they want to be committed. It sounds like what she's ultimately alluding to is that these black men wanted commitment, and she was not ready for that. I mean, she kind of made it sound more beautiful and romantic, but that's what it seems like she's alluding to. Y'all let me know if I'm missing it there.
I wanted to be captured by this particular white guy, and I was just like,
okay, so she's telling herself she didn't want to be captured by black men who were good to her. She wanted to be captured by a white guy, but let's see why that didn't happen.
See myself, being captured by you, and he was like, I don't want kids. I don't want to get married. And we dated for 3 years, so that was a really long time. Point being, it doesn't matter. If anything, I feel like you are most likely to meet a white guy, in South Africa at least, a white guy who doesn't want kids and marriage than to meet a black guy who doesn't want kids or marriage. I'm not saying there aren't any, I'm just saying there are very few of them.
So she really, really, really told herself. Well, you know what's funny? So I think she's South African, because she mentioned that. So you have a woman coming from South Africa, you have a woman coming from America. Same situation, same issues. Men are going to men. If you attract dusty dudes, or if you attract guys who are not serious or whatever, they're going to do exactly what a man will do who has that mentality. If you attract a cheater, whether he's white or black, he's going to cheat. If you attract a liar, whether he's white or black, he's going to lie. It's so many of these things have so much more to do with the character of the person than the race. Now, what we do find is that she kind of alluded to it. I think sometimes ladies have different perspectives and even different desires. She mentioned there are these black men in her community, but when it came to a white dude, she didn't want to be captured by him, but he wasn't interested. So we're saying that sometimes these rules change based upon the interest that the woman has in that person. And I think also sometimes the rules vary by race. But anyways, y'all, that's what I have. What do y'all think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down in the comment section. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.